All right, Jerry, thank you so much for being with me again on the show. Remind everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andy. It's great to be back with you again. We've had a lot happen since December, since the last time we visited. And so we are just grateful that you extended the invitation to come back on and have a conversation about this important topic. And hopefully your audience will find some value in some of the topics that I know you want to talk about today. So my name is Jerry Gowen. I'm the COO at Operation Underground Railroad. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the eradication of child sex trafficking, which we're going to talk a little bit about that today. It's a horrible problem. It's tough to talk about, even to say those words. But I've been here for about 6 years now, Andy, and I have to say it's been one of the greatest blessings and privileges to be a part of such a great cause. And apart from my own family, I'm a father of 6 children. Oldest is 17, youngest is 6. So, and apart from that role of being a father, there's really been no greater blessing in my life than to be a part of such a great cause.
And that is amazing. And we appreciate what you do because you have to, like you said, it's rewarding, but it's also hard at the same time, I would imagine. So we appreciate it because we know that's a hard job. You've talked about human trafficking. For those who are maybe listening to us talk for the first time, can you explain exactly what human trafficking is?
Yeah, you bet. So, just to put out a simple definition for it, Andy, it's really using force, fraud, or coercion for the sole purpose of exploiting another person. And our focus is obviously on children, right?
Right.
That exploitation of children, but it crosses various areas. Trafficking can obviously be based in labor. There can be forced labor situations where, again, individuals are forced or exploited to in labor situations. We are seeing more and more issues around organ harvesting, which is another just horrible thought that we'd even have to talk about that. And we help in that area too. But our primary focus is on the sex trafficking side, and that's really, again, that use of force, fraud, or coercion to force children to participate in sexual acts. And so, again, it's really tough. There's estimated 40 million individuals worldwide who are being trafficked. 2 million of them are children, and that's, again, what we want to focus in on today. And Andy, I was thinking about this last night and knowing we were going to talk today, and as a father, and I think everyone knows children, right? They either have children or they're uncles or grandfathers or brothers or cousins or whatever, or neighbors, good neighbors, right? We
Right.
know kids that are around us, and there is nothing that would keep you from doing whatever it takes to go help track down a child that you would do anything, and that's really our model here at OUR. That's where we step in. We work hand in hand with law enforcement. We are not law enforcement, so I want to make that clear, but we work hand in hand with them to really go in and rescue these children. And in today's environment, law enforcement is taking a lot of heat right now, and it's really, in my opinion, it's unfortunate because they're the ones on the front lines, and we can talk about it a little bit later. What's happened during the COVID piece here, but this work is continuing to go forward. And again, we can talk about that later, but it's continuing to go forward because of law enforcement. And so, I'm just really pleased with what we're able to do together with them. We're in 25 countries, 27 states here in the United States. And again, it's all about helping children that have been placed in that situation that we just defined.
Right. And you're obviously focusing on saving children, which is, I think, for a lot of folks, a horrific thought that that sort of stuff happens. Is there Is there an age limit with trafficking? Is there any rules to this where traffickers are like, "Oh no, I won't bother a kid of this age," that sort of thing? How how ugly does this get?
There really isn't an age limit, Andy, and that's scary, right? I mean, that's the scary piece about this. We've seen victims as young as 2 or 3 years old, all the way up through the spectrum, and obviously, our focus is on children, but oftentimes our teams of operators will go into these countries and play the role of the buyer, to help law enforcement, and will purchase children. And when police come in and make the arrests, we'll find that there are young children. Many times there are, girls who've gone beyond the age of 18, and some people would say, well, what do you do what do you do in that case? And obviously we don't leave them behind.
Right.
Even if they're 19, 20, 21, whatever, they still have been victimized. And again, our focus is on the children, and majority of the cases, we're seeing that they're very young children. But these older children have been victimized and trafficked, and put in a situation that was out of their control fully with that definition we talked about. And so they deserve the opportunity to be rescued as well. But we see the full spectrum in our work, unfortunately.
You're right. That is unfortunate, at the least. Human trafficking, I feel like, has been a recent topic of conversation over the last few weeks with a conspiracy theory kind of surrounding Wayfair. Now, I know this sort of thing, trafficking, is done online, but is it done in giant retail websites like this?
So it's really tragic, Andy, and I'm sure the your audience is familiar with this conspiracy that's been brought up, and I'm glad you raised it, and I want to talk a little bit about it because
Sure.
it's so important, and what it has done is created a forum for this topic to finally come out and get the time that it deserves, frankly. When you look at all the other issues that are debated and that are in our news, politically motivated, and I'm not saying that there aren't issues that are out there that we shouldn't be talking about, but can you think of a cause, a greater cause that we should be talking about that just never gets the
Yeah.
spotlight because of everything else, right? So, related to this, this conspiracy theory, it was put out there that perhaps there was some trafficking occurring by this online furniture vendor, and it's tragic that there are predators out there that are taking care of, or that are taking advantage, I should say, of vulnerable people. I don't personally have any knowledge that would indicate that there's any veracity to this claim, and personally, I don't believe that it is true. Now, if something comes out of it, and there's any substance at all to it, obviously that's going to be left to law enforcement to investigate and
Right.
come back with. But the fact remains, Andy, and I'm so glad you want to talk about it. The fact remains that children are being exploited online each and every day. And it's through various outlets, and it is a tragedy. And really, I would encourage individuals to go, if they get a chance, and see the video that our founder Tim Ballard put out just a few days ago, and you can find that on our YouTube channel, or on any of our social media channels, Instagram or Facebook. And he does a good job of addressing, this issue, and really, again, pointing out what I just said. This is left up to law enforcement to investigate if there's anything there. I don't personally believe that they will find something there, but gosh, we're so grateful that people are talking about it, and it's unfortunate that I guess that it took that.
Right.
That back to bring this to the forefront. But we're grateful that people are finally saying something about it, and I think it's interesting. We're having a lot of discussion about this internally, right? Obviously, and we're seeing a big uptick in our followers and people that are coming and just finally now saying, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was happening." And one of my friends, coworkers that I work with, made the comment yesterday that it is just it's humbling to see the outpouring of of love that's being expressed by people because of this what's happened in the last few days. And we're seeing the number of followers on our channels is just increasing exponentially. People are donating, they're signing up to become volunteers.
Awesome.
They're sharing this message, and I'll give you a little sneak peek. What we're kind of focusing on here, we're taking this theme of rising up, right? This is an opportunity for everyone to rise up and to recognize that this is happening, and that's what we're seeing. People are coming to us and they are rising up, and like I said, they're really showing us that we do have a power to shine a light into the darkness. And honestly, I have an amazing team here of operators who they go into the darkest places on earth and again help law enforcement in rescuing these children. We have an amazing team of aftercare specialists, and you and I could spend an entire session talking about that group, but that's important too, Andy. I want the audience to know, that rescue is just the first step, right? Once the children are rescued, they need to receive the obvious critical services that they need, food, shelter, clothing, all those obvious things. But more importantly, they need the therapy and counseling. They need, because of the trauma, they need education support, vocational training. And we've been around long enough now where those success stories are coming out now. The rescues have happened years ago. Now these victims are survivors, and I love this phrase. They're not just surviving; they're thriving. Right?
Very good.
About a week before COVID hit, and I returned home from a trip to a Central American country. And like I said, I got home actually exactly a week before they shut the borders in and out, which, is interesting to think I could have been trapped there for a little while. But our sole purpose for that trip was to go and visit the children who we've helped rescue in that country. And not just those children, Andy, but also, when we rescue children and we vet these aftercare facilities where they can go and receive that care, they already have children in those facilities that have been rescued, through other means. We don't just take care of the ones that we rescued. We help all the children that are in those facilities. So
That's
the
awesome.
primary purpose was to go visit those children and give support to those critical aftercare partners who take, they're heroes. They take care of those children day in and day out. And I had just a couple of life-changing experiences on that trip that made me come away and just realize, gosh, we've just got to keep talking about this and to spend some time with a couple of those individual survivors and see how they are now. One in particular, she's now a mother of two children. She has a full-time job. She actually works nights so that she can go to school, and we've helped her with education, and I got to meet her children, and we've helped her with the tools that she needs to do well in school, technology and whatnot. And we need to be talking more about this. So the whole Wayfair conspiracy theory, I've told you what I think about that, but regardless, the fact that it's opened this channel of communication, and I just hope that people will continue to be willing to talk about this.
Right.
Sorry, I went on and on there.
No, that's great. And I really appreciated how you were talking about this. It starts at rescue. I guess it really starts at identifying the problem, then the rescue, and all the way through to helping people become a success. Because yes, rescue is important, and we see that, that makes for good video. But also there at the end, it's the person who can hold their head up high, get a job, lead a normal life, and not just survive but thrive,
Yep.
like you said.
Yep.
Obviously, this is a worldwide problem that we're dealing with. The last time you and I spoke, you shocked me with something, and I am not shocked often. And that was you told me that the United States is the number one consumer of child porn. Why is that? Why us? I mean, we're having these important conversations. What's happening there?
Um, yeah, unfortunately, it is true. The United States is the number one consumer of child pornography. It's also the number one destination for child trafficking. It's the number one destination for victims of trafficking, and honestly, Andy, the answer is the one word answer is demand. There is the demand here, and it's sad that we have to say that. They estimate that between 14,500 and 17,500 people are trafficked into the United States every year, right? Um, we saw, and I don't have the last year's data yet, but 2018, they saw that there were over 30,000 victims that were brought across the border between the United States and Mexico. I mean, that number is just staggering, right? And
Yeah.
that's just trafficking related. That's what we're
Hmm.
talking about today is trafficking. You mentioned pornography. I'm glad you brought it up. There is such a solid link between child pornography and child trafficking. And it's another one of those topics that we have to be willing to talk about. And again, it's not dinner time conversation
No, not at all.
typically, but it needs to be. And what we see happens, Andy, is it starts with pornography, right? It starts with pornography. That isn't enough, and so it turns to unfortunately to child pornography consumption, and then there's the point where the individual feels the need to act out on that, and so it gets to the point where there's the purchase of a child, but it starts with that pornography, and it's clearly a catalyst for trafficking. And so as fathers, as parents, what are we going to do? What do we do about it? Well, we have to talk about it. Like you and I are talking about it, today. We need to create a safe environment where we can talk to our children about it, but also, other dads, other, our friends and others around us. We need to be able to talk to them about the effects of pornography, and in particular this horrible scourge that is child pornography. And once we get to that point that we can talk about it, and the effects and what it leads to, and that it is real, then we can start to perhaps make a dent in some of those numbers. But we clearly see the connection between it and trafficking. And so there's some great groups out there that are really trying to educate people on the harmful effects of pornography, and then knowing that it leads down that path. How do we help people that are struggling with that, and how do we help keep it from its horrible results, honestly.
Right. You were talking about how you were in another country when COVID-19 was kicking in. You and I kind of joked and talked before we started this session about how things have changed so much since the last time we spoke. How has COVID-19 affected human trafficking and child pornography?
Yeah, it's a great question, and here's the short answer. There are so many more children that are vulnerable now than they were before, because it's another, unfortunately, it's another casualty of this pandemic, right? Um, Here's what's happened, and this is somewhat obvious to people, but it's showing that the number of people online, the number of hours being spent online is skyrocketed. I mean, you've
Right.
seen, the screen time for children is skyrocketing, and I've seen this in my own home, right? With
Yeah. Yeah.
kids, yeah, kids being home. You and I are talking about. It's interesting. It's we were saying the other day, it doesn't even feel like we're having a normal summer because we went from quarantine directly into, it seems like now we're talking about, well, what's the plan for school, getting back started in the fall. And here's what's happened. That time that we were under quarantine with kids at home, they were online more, and they became bigger targets for these offenders, pedophiles, who are going online to lure them through all the various channels that are obvious, right, and some not so obvious, to get to exploit those children using online methods. It's another issue where we've got, as parents, we need to talk to our children, and we need to be monitoring more than ever what they're doing online. And it's social media, obviously, has great benefits, and we'll talk about that more later. I mean, that's what I want to encourage your audience to do, is use social media to rise up, this
Right.
idea of rise up. But social media is also being used to lure these children in, and as they become instant victims because someone on the other end is portraying themselves to be another youth, or that just wants to get to know them personally, and they sound enticing, right? They're maybe slightly older and the opposite sex, or something that would similar interests that they would want to create an online relationship, and that's where it gets started, right? I had a situation, actually. My neighbor has a teenage girl, and she fell into this. Unfortunately, she was victimized online. There was an individual portraying himself to be, an older teenage boy online. Just wanted to get to know her. Was using, typical normal social media channels to do that. Lured her into a situation where he traveled from another state here, and one night late reached out and said, "Hey, I'm here, and come out, let's meet, face to face." And she was taken to his state, and thankfully law enforcement got involved right away, and they were able to track, use the tools that we help provide to them in many cases, and the training that we help provide. They were able to use those tools to track him down, and they were able to find her and bring her back home. But that's where it starts. Video games. My kids, I've got a couple of them. I have 3 boys, 3 girls, and a couple of the boys and a couple of the girls. They love the online games, and those venues are ripe for offenders to use to lure them in. And again, because of that skyrocketing screen time, that's what's happening. And so it's more important now than ever that we are vigilant, that we use the tools that are available to protect children, and that we ourselves, I would say, Andy, spend a little less time online. And this is myself, I'm including myself in that, a little less time online to teach and help others with their habits online. And I think we'll be able to get through it. But yeah, it's an interesting time for sure.
So, Jerry, thank you for kind of sharing the example of what happened to your neighbor. It shows how this doesn't start out as something dangerous. It kind of escalates from something innocent to being something where somebody travels from another state and actually tries to meet children in person. What are some signs that parents can look for that maybe something isn't quite right with someone who is talking to our kids online?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, first and foremost, there's those indicators, right? We need to be aware as parents, that if someone is online asking for information, that's the number one red flag, right? We shouldn't accept friend requests or invitations from someone that we don't know. And I know that's hard because we see those come in, and again, it seems like it starts as something innocent, like you said, Andy. We can't reveal. I think we're, especially our children, are very innocent and willing to reveal information about themselves. that anytime we're being asked online to reveal any kind of information about ourselves, and you know, people, I think we get more airtime on financial information, right? Like, not sharing social security numbers and, things like that,
Right.
obviously. But even those basic, like you said, innocent detail, ages, locations, addresses, schools, you know, that's how traffickers and online predators, that's the kind of information that they use, right? The case that we talked about, never should we agree to meet someone, that we've had some kind of interaction with, online. And if we feel any kind of uncomfortable feeling as part of an interaction with someone online through gaming or social media, that's where, the the flag should be, the siren should be going off, and we've got to stop right there at that moment, and have a discussion, have a conversation about it, and really, you know, encourage our children and others to confide in someone and say, hey, here's what's happened. Here's my experience online. Here's what I've been asked, or here's what's been shared with me. Honestly, I think, if we spot something, we need to report it. If we experience anything like this along this spectrum of initial coercion, online, that's what the National Trafficking Hotline is for, and it's that number, Andy, is 1-888-373-7888. So if people are witnessing that, and it's one of those scenarios where I think sometimes we may be hesitant to say something or do something. It's much better to say something or do something. When in doubt, do it, because that's what's going to happen. If it's investigated and it turns out to be nothing, so be it. But better off to say something than not, and potentially have more vulnerable at risk because of an online predator.
And this is a big problem, and it's going to take people like us doing something and reporting it to the authorities to get them on the trail, because it may lead to something bigger, and your organization being able to step in and help rescue kids to help them, just, not only survive but thrive. What, speaking up is obviously something that we need to do. Talking about it is something that we need to do. What else is it that we can do as the good, law abiding citizens of the world? What is it that we can do to help combat human trafficking?
Great question. First of all, get educated. We all need to get educated. That's number one. What is trafficking? What is child sex trafficking? What are the signs of trafficking, Andy? And I may mention this last time when I was with you in December, but we have a completely free online signs of trafficking training course. And if you go to our website, it's ourrescue.org/training. If you go there and take that training, that's number one. I would encourage everyone, go. It takes about an hour. Like I said, it's free. It has some videos and case scenarios.
And I've done it, and it's
Oh,
very well done.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's high level. We don't get into the weeds, but it's just enough information where I think you come away a little better prepared in today's environment. So share that, right? Take the training, share it online, with your audiences and with your friends. We talked about the National Trafficking Hotline number, as we see things, and we should be watching around us. Andy, there's the signs of something nefarious happening online, right? But there's also, we should be looking for victims, right? These children that we talk about here in the United States, where it's a huge problem, they're in the midst of us, right? And so there's some indicators, and the training talks a little bit about that we should be aware of, that our children should be aware of with their friends. If they see other children that are malnourished, or something seems suspicious, or anxiety or unexpected behavioral issues, or missing school as that gets up and going, and just some of those what I would call indicators. Again, we need to, if we see something, we need to say something. we need to talk about it and reach out to that trafficking hotline. The other thing that I would say is we are trying, as part of this push to have people rise up. We truly believe, Andy, that each individual will know best what they can do, right? What they need to do. We have people come forward all the time that have various skill sets, passions, abilities, and we tell them, you'll know what you can do. You're doing it today, Andy, by inviting me on to help talk about it, and that's something you can do. Again, I encourage people to go to our website, ourrescue.org. There's a link there that's called Join the Fight. If you click on Join the Fight, there's all kinds of options for people to do something and rise up. And, as simple as becoming a volunteer. And we're pretty demanding of our volunteers. This isn't just I raise my hand and I volunteer for Operation Underground Railroad. They actually go through a form that you have to fill out. It takes a little bit of time, but it hones in on, again, some of those skill sets and areas of interest where people may want to get involved and help, right? And that's nice because it facilitates so that they can really get a customized opportunities where they can support the cause. And people want to throw events. They want to do screenings of documentaries that have been made about this cause and about our organization. There are so many things that they can do. Sharing on, again, I already mentioned this, but sharing on our social media channels. Pick 10 individuals that we want to reach out to and just say, hey, I just heard about this. I want to share it with you. But again, there's some great options there on the website under Join the Fight.
That's fantastic. And also, there's a big day coming up. July 30th is a big day. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'll give you guys, we have not talked about this at all external. I'll give your audience here a little sneak peek. So,
oh, awesome.
2020 has been just a horrific year for children, right? They are continually being forgotten and overlooked. And the number of reported cases of child abuse, it just goes higher and higher, every year. And we saw that this past year as well. And, we talked about the conspiracy theory and it is no small thing. This child trafficking has grown to be, the largest fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. And the children really need us. So July 30th, Andy, is designated as World Day Against Trafficking. And what we're doing, because of what you and I talked about here on the podcast, because of this new found kind of groundswell and momentum that's building where people are realizing that this is happening, we are going to have some special events happen around the country on that day on July 30th, and the 10 days leading up to that day, the World Day Against Trafficking. And so what I would encourage people to do is, if they text help them, HELPTHEM, one word, text help them to 51555, then you will be added to the database to get additional details about those special events that are going to be happening on July 30th, as well as the 10 days leading up to it. We're going to have kind of a 10-day ramp up with some various small and simple things, kind of what you and I have been talking about, small and simple things that each one of us can do to help join this fight and rise up and really make a difference for our children. And so, again, text that help them to 51555. The other alternative is to sign up and follow us on social. We'll be posting updates there, obviously, as well. But we're really excited. We think that there's some things that have happened here with the conspiracy, with the the Epstein case. It is being talked about, and for that, we're grateful. But now it's time to tell people, what they can do, and that's what we want to do here between now and the end of the month.
Right. So it's now time to rise up.
Absolutely.
Jerry, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming back on the show and sharing about all the good work that you guys do. You continue to be in my thoughts and my prayers. Buddy, just keep up the good work.
Thank you, Andy. Such a privilege. I enjoy. I'm grateful for you personally, and grateful for your audience. And thanks for reaching out and having me on. I really appreciate it.